Welcome to my presentation. My name is Farzaneh Davari and I'm a PhD candidate in computational social science in George Mason University. Also, I teach a graduate level course of decision making in complex environment for public policy. I would like to present an agent-based model in which the policy of legally restricting farmers' access to water in order to force them to change their crop pattern is programmed. Obviously, it's a type of command and control policy. For this reason, the name of the model is command and control. The situation and the behavior rules has been extracted from the case study of Urmia Lake Basin in northwestern Iran. You can find the full description of the model, which follows the format of ODD plus D in the presented paper. However, in this presentation, because of the time limitation, I will go through an introduction of concept of command and control in natural resources and introducing Urmia Lake Basin case study in order to justify the model purpose. Then I will present the conceptual process of the model in order to explain the model that I'm going to demonstrate here. The model is programmed in NetLogo, and I think these are sufficient for starting discussions in the forum, and I'm looking very much forward to it. Central top-down policymaking, planning and management in natural resources has a long history and has been challenged theoretically as well as practically. According to Holling and Murphy, this approach has found its way to natural resource management when the population was increasing and natural resources were declining. Generally speaking, command and control is a linear cause-effect problem-solving approach, which assumes that there is a controllable solution to a well-defined problem. Applying command and control approach in a social-ecological complex systems not only doesn't produce the expected outcomes, but also different issues will be emerged as the consequences of implementing command and control approach. Urmia Lake restoration policies in northwestern Iran follow the same command and control approach, even though the policymakers admit that Urmia Lake Basin is a social-ecological complex system. Urmia Lake, which is the world's second largest hypersaline lake, started the drying process 4 decades ago. According to the Urmia Lake Restoration Program, this scientific studies indicates that extra water consumption in agriculture reduced the inflow of water to the lake. It was concluded that the consumption in agricultural sector should be reduced by 40% and the crop pattern should be changed from high water demand to low water demands crop. However, history shows that farmers don't follow the command and find their own way to get the amount of water that they need. This model addresses the policy of command to change the crop pattern and control water consumption by establishing special forces to control water consumption, which is called water police forces. This is an overview of the model process and scheduling. In the beginning of the cultivating season, each farmland is allocated to the specific amount of water which is sufficient for the low water demand crop. Farmer decision on crop pattern do not necessarily follow the allocated amount of water to the farmlands. Farmers' decisions are affected by their perceptions of their status, their neighbors' status, the availability of water sources, as well as their interactions with the water police. Farmers' crop type decision follows the decision-making path. As you see in this process, a farmer faces 3 types of final decision: cultivating the land with low water demand crop or high water demand crops, or leave the land uncultivated. In its sequential path, the first thing a farmer faces is to check its needs to extra water. If it doesn't need extra water, it decides to cultivate land with a low water demand crop. If the agent needs extra water for any reason, it checks if it has the capacity to seek extra water, because not everyone has the same capacity. If it does, the farmer also checks its neighbor's status for the security reason. If more than certain number of neighbors uh, cultivate high water demand crop, the farmer decides to move to the water sources to pick extra water. However, if the legal punishment law is in effect, the farmer agent also checks its records of being fined before deciding to move for seeking extra water. If the farmer agent is fined less than certain times, the farmer agent decides to move to take extra water. If the farmer who is moving to take extra water is not in the vision of the water police, who are moving around, the farmer agent picks the water and goes back to its farmlands and cultivate high water demand crop. If the farmer who is seeking extra water is catched by the water police, it goes back to its land and its status changes to the farmer with who is in need but has no capacity to seek extra water. If the farmer agent has no capacity to seek extra water but is in need of extra water, it checks its neighbors for the same situation. If the farmer has at least certain number of neighbors in the same situation, it decides to dig a well and cultivate high water demand crop if the water police cannot see the farmer digging the well. If the water police catches the farmer digging a well, the well will be filled up and the farmer will be returned to the farmland to decide to either cultivate its land with low water demand crop or leave the land uncultivated. Thank you so much for your attention and looking forward to the discussion.